How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Will Deon Bush see the field more in 2020, and is Eddie Jackson a top 5 safety in the NFL? Today we're flipping to the defensive side of the ball, starting from the back end, and we are going to go with the safeties for this episode, I think number 6 of Positional Review. Welcome back to the show, guys. I would like to say before I introduce myself and my co-hosts, we are grinding for 2,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. Do us a favor, if you are new to the channel, click the red button to subscribe, click the bell for notifications whenever we post, and do us a favor and drop a like on this video. I would like to say one more thing before we start off. It's a slow time in the off season right now. Not a lot is going on, so if you see a little bit less content from us, honestly, there's not a ton to do. But that being said, we're going to kick it back into full gear when the season rolls around. Let's hope training camp can start soon so we can start talking about that. But welcome back to the show, guys. I am your host, Chris Malpe. Today, I am joined with my co-host, Parth Shaw. How's it going, Parth?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, man. It's supposed to storm this afternoon. Finally, some well-deserved rain in Illinois after it's been like 90-degree heaters for like 2 weeks straight.
Yeah, I've been ready for some rain. It's getting way too hot out here. Not used to the hot weather either, so...
Eddie Jackson has been a much-discussed topic recently on the show after some people, specifically Matt Miller, has come out and said some stuff about him. But that being said, we're looking at the safety position today, which is looking to be pretty strong after a pretty solid offseason where the Bears added Jordan Lucas as well as Tashaun Gipson. So let's just get right into it. Obviously, you have to start at the top with Eddie Jackson. 2 forced fumbles, 6 interceptions in 2018, also 15 passes defended. Easily his best year at the free safety position, and even during his rookie year in 2017, he was still pretty dominant there. I remember the game still when I was there, and he had 2 75-yard returns for a touchdown, one on a fumble and one by an interception on the ball that got tipped. It was a pass to Kelvin Benjamin by Cam Newton. So Eddie Jackson really popped out on the scene early. He's looking to be back at strong safety here back at free safety, in 2020. That being said, at strong safety in 2019, he was still solid, 2 interceptions with 51 tackles. Parth, I want to pass it to you. What do you think about Eddie Jackson? Are you pretty comfortable with him moving back to the free safety position here heading into 2020?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's probably one of the most underrated players in the NFL right now. I don't think he gets as much recognition. Pro Football Focus put out its top 5 safeties, and he wasn't on there. Matt Miller said he's not a top 10 safety. I think a lot of people are just disrespecting Eddie's game. When he's back at free safety, he's going to be able to do his thing. He's a ball hawk. He had 6 interceptions in 2018 when he was able to do his thing. Lots of pick sixes, too. He's flashy with his game. It's a lot of fun to watch him at free safety, and I think with this defensive line that we have, he'll have just more opportunities to just get more interceptions. And while he wasn't terrible at strong safety either last year, I just feel like he's more natural at a free safety position.
Yeah, if the Bears were going to eventually put him at strong safety, I'd want someone a little bit better at free safety, and that's not even a knock on HaHa Clinton-Dix. I thought he was okay. But if they ever did want to move Eddie back to strong safety, I don't think it's something that we would oppose if there's a good free safety there. But that being said, Eddie is way more productive at free safety, and I'm really excited for him to be there in 2020. So let's look at another in-house name, Deon Bush, obviously someone who is probably slated to be the starting strong safety before the Bears brought in Tashaun Gipson and Jordan Lucas. That'll provide some interesting competition. 3 players who are definitely vying for the spot. Deon Bush has had 8 tackles in his career. 8 games played in his career, 22 tackles in 2016. He's always been an under-the-radar guy out of Miami. Was there with Artie Burns. A decent player. Chuck Pagano has spoken highly on him, but I don't know if there's much to say on him. I just hope, personally, that he sees the field a little bit more, continues to develop under Eddie Jackson, and most likely Tashaun Gipson. Heading on to Tashaun Gipson, he was an undrafted free agent out of Wyoming and has created for himself a really solid career. He was a Pro Bowler in 2014, also was featured on the back end of that 2017 AFC Championship team with the Jacksonville Jaguars. In 2019, he was a strong safety for the Houston Texans. He played 14 games and compiled 3 interceptions, 8 passes defended, and 51 tackles. Also in that 2017 season with the Jacksonville Jaguars, that defense that reminds a lot of us of the Bears right now. He had 4 interceptions, 7 passes defended with 64 tackles. A very good year for him. He's here on a veteran minimum deal. Parth, do you like this pickup?
Oh, it's one of my favorite pickups of the offseason, in my opinion. Once again, another underrated move. Tashaun Gipson has always been one of the better veteran safeties in the league. I mean, last year he had 3 interceptions, and he produced well. I was a little shaky having Deon Bush as our starting strong safety after the draft, but this pickup by Ryan Pace definitely helps the Bears. Also helps out Eddie Jackson to play both strong safety and free safety. You'll see a lot of them. You'll see them splitting their time, most likely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Eddie will be primarily there at the free safety position, but definitely has proven that he can play some strong safety. And you bring in Tashaun Gipson, an established, grizzled veteran, to play alongside him, and it's looking like that secondary is really patching up some needs that they needed. Obviously, 14 games played at strong safety with Houston in 2019. Did pretty well there. 51 tackles in the box was pretty solid. Also 3 interceptions. Tashaun Gipson is also someone who has been a ball hawk. If you watch his tape with the Cleveland Browns back when he was young, he reminds me of Eddie Jackson. So it wouldn't shock me if you see maybe Deon Bush filling in at strong safety and then moving over to Sean to free safety when Eddie's tired or if anyone gets injured. Obviously injuries are inevitable in this league. You don't want it to happen to your marquee players. But Tashaun Gipson, someone who can play at either position, has proven that he can be very viable at both positions. So a very great pickup there. Finally, the last one we're going to talk about is Jordan Lucas. 4 games started in 2018 for the Kansas City Chiefs. He had 1 interception with 2 passes defended and 32 tackles. And in 2019, he made 14 appearances, 0 starts, but had 7 tackles and a pass defended. Still someone, who has a championship pedigree, obviously coming from that team in 2019 with the Kansas City Chiefs who won the Super Bowl. I believe he made a tackle in the Super Bowl. Might be a little bit more ready than Deon Bush. Obviously, I think we're all rooting for Bush to get some more reps here. But Jordan Lucas, definitely a player who has done it in the past, obviously on a limited level, but still has been able to be productive. Parth, did you like this signing? I mean, obviously Tashaun Gipson is here now, but Jordan Lucas is someone who could be a very solid backup if he doesn't win the job.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And plus, it's just another depth player. One of the best things that the Bears have done with their defense in the past years is just build up the depth. Like last year at linebacker, we had Nick Kwiatkowski and Kevin Pierre-Louis come in and plug in if we needed help. Now we got safety positions all loaded up with Jordan Lucas, Dion Bush, if anything happens to Eddie Jackson or Tashaun Gipson, which is always a good thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, depth. It's something that really rings in your ears when you think about that 2018 team. A lot of players like Roy Robertson-Harris, Bilal Nichols, you mentioned 2 of them, in Kevin Pierre-Louis and Nick Kwiatkowski. Even like the cornerbacks were able to step up in that 2018 team. And I think the Bears have a lot of depth on defense that really resembles that old team. Parth, do you have anything to say about the other 2 safeties? I mean, obviously, you got DeAndre Houston Carson and Kentrell Bryce. Houston Carson, someone who has made a ton of contributions on special teams throughout his time in Chicago. So you have anything to say about them? I know you looked up a little bit of stuff.
Yeah, so Houston Carson's appeared in 48 games for the Bears. Always been predominantly a special teams player. He has 24 special teams tackles and 2 forced fumbles. I think he stays as a great role player once again. He's always going to be the special teams. Another guy that just in case if something happens to the guys at the top, come in and play the defense that we need him. He's been here for years. He knows how this defense works. Despite the changes we've had, I'm pretty sure he's another plug-and-play type of player. And the Bears also picked up another safety in Kentrell Bryce. He was with the Packers for a couple of years. He comes to the Bears on another cheap deal, and he'll probably be another full-time special team player. He played strong safety, and he started 14 games for Green Bay in the 3 seasons he was there, but he had very limited success. Only had 1 interception. So another special teams player that the Bears can have in the back end too.
Absolutely. Kentrell Bryce is someone who will probably be on the bubble for making the roster or not. But DeAndre Houston Carson has been great throughout his years on special teams. You mentioned those 24 tackles that he's had on special teams and also those 2 forced fumbles. So definitely an under-the-radar player that maybe doesn't get the respect he deserves, but not someone I could really see contributing at safety. Obviously, he is a safety, but that being said, primarily a special teams player. Now we've got a couple questions to answer before we will get into grading the position. Obviously, looking a lot better than it did there in 2019. But that being said, Parth, Eddie Jackson, someone who has gotten some disrespect from national media this offseason, and I guess you could call it a down year in 2019, even though balls weren't really thrown his way much. Obviously he is known for being that ball hawk. But that being said, still had a decent year in 2019, 51 tackles and 2 interceptions. He's obviously going to move predominantly back to free safety or at least that's what all Bears fans assume is going to happen here in 2020. So you would assume that he's going to have another solid year. Obviously, at free safety there in 2018, he had 6 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 15 passes defended, and 2 touchdowns. He's looking to, I guess, just become that ball hawk again, and I'm hoping that he can improve. But, Parth, I want to ask you, do you think he ends up being a top 5 safety in the NFL here statistically in 2020?
Easily. I mean, just the way he's come out of the league. He was a 4th-round pick coming to the NFL, didn't have that many expectations, and then he just comes out and he proves himself, and he's shown that he can be an elite safety in the league whenever needed. There's no doubt in my mind he becomes a top 5 safety, if not even better, with this defensive line that we have in the front. It's just going to help him more. And just like I said before, he's going back to free safety, his natural position where he can be the ball hawk that he wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, Parth's answer shows a ton of confidence in Eddie Jackson, and he's only entering his 4th year in the league. Parth, a very confident answer there, and I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with you. I think Eddie Jackson will go back to being that ball hawk that we all know and love in 2020. I think he's going to force turnovers. I do think teams will avoid throwing his way at times, but that being said, he's going to be the deep safety. He's going to have opportunities to jump the ball, and he's got a great eye and a great knack for reading those type of things. Deon Bush is someone who hasn't had many chances throughout his career in Chicago. That being said, Vic Fangio spoke highly of him. Chuck Pagano spoke highly of him. It's a very interesting situation when you look at him because he's always been on the cusp of being that starter, and he sat alongside some great safeties and has gotten some great advice from some great defensive coordinators. Obviously, I mentioned Fangio and Pagano. Pagano, obviously, someone who worked down there in the Ravens with Ed Reed. Eddie Jackson's looking to turn into that type of Ed Reed player, I guess. I'm not putting him on that tier yet at all. But that being said, if Eddie Jackson can continue to play well, he definitely could be one of the better safeties in the league, definitely for the rest of this decade. But Deon Bush, he sat behind Adrian Amos, Eddie Jackson, obviously, and also Clinton Dix. It seems like he's ready for some more opportunities. So, Parth, do you think Deon Bush will get some more chances in 2020, even if it's off the bench?
Yeah, he should. I mean, what's it called? I found this statistic of him recently where in that playoff game against the Eagles, he was only targeted once and he allowed 0 yards and 0 catches. So he's definitely a player that deserves some more playing time, in my opinion. If Tashaun Gipson wasn't here, I was a little shaky at first about having Deon Bush as their starting strong safety, but looking back at it, it wouldn't have been a big deal. I feel like, we've seen Chuck Pagano say highly things of him. He's played behind Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos, Clinton Dix. He's got the advice that he needs to become that next safety that we need him to. And maybe, Tashaun's in a 1-year deal, so maybe next year
2021 might be his year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think next year is Deon Bush's, he becomes that starting strong safety that we need him to become.
Yeah, Deon Bush obviously has been here since 2016. He's been here a year longer than Eddie Jackson, entering I believe his 5th year in the league actually. Yeah. So, yeah, I think 2021 could be a big year for him. That being said, I think he does get more chances here in 2020. Obviously we talked about Tashaun Gipson being here on a small deal, and also Eddie Jackson. If one of them gets injured, I'm fine with Deon Bush plugging in. Obviously he has to beat out Jordan Lucas because Lucas might get the nod for being that next safety. But that being said, you look at who the Bears have up front. They add Robert Quinn. They keep Akeem Hicks around, and he's going to be healthy. They get a rotational edge piece back in Roy Robertson-Harris. They draft Travis Gibson. Trevathan is back. Roquan is back. This front seven is looking so scary. There's a little bit lack of depth at linebacker. I know we spoke about that a little bit before we started recording. But if Deon Bush is a player that needs to fill in, I think this front seven will give him opportunities to make plays. This front seven is looking to be probably top 3 in the league, and I expect them to answer that bill and deliver. And I think the secondary in general is going to be really good here in 2020. Based on the front seven. The back end is still very scary. You got the All-Pros there in Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller. They add Jaylen Johnson. Kevin Tolliver's looking to get some snaps. Buster Scream was all right in 2019. I actually think he was pretty decent. And then you got some really good depth pieces there on the back ends who will look to get some more shots, and I definitely think Deon Bush can get more chances, whether it's at free safety or strong safety. If Eddie does go down, you can slide Tashaun Gipson over to free safety. I talked about him earlier being a ball hawk throughout his career, and I'd be fine with Tashaun Gipson and Deon Bush if it came down to that. So, one more question. Obviously, the Bears are looking to have a good safety tandem here with Gipson and Eddie Jackson. So, I want to ask you, Parth, do you think that tandem will work well together? Do you think they can be some of the best in the league as far as safeties go?
It's tough to say, but I think they can just because of how dominant Eddie Jackson is. Eddie Jackson himself can carry the backload of the defense, in my opinion. So I'll say yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with you. You know, obviously, I recently spoke about how dominant the front seven's looking to be. I think they will be one of the better safety tandems in 2020, and I'm so excited to have Eddie Jackson, hopefully, back predominantly at that free safety position. You know, they're going to get a lot of opportunities. This front seven's going to force pressure. You're not going to be able to block Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack, and obviously Akeem Hicks. So if the ball is getting out of the quarterback's hands, you know, odds are it's not going to be the greatest of passes all the time. You know, obviously some of these teams do have pretty good offensive lines, but that being said, we have three of the most dominant pass rushers in the league. Akeem Hicks definitely someone who is overlooked a ton, and I think this back end, especially the safeties, will get a lot of opportunities to jump on the ball. So, finally, we have one more thing to do. We do it at the end of every positional review episode. We grade the position. I'm going to start off. I'm going to give the safeties an A-. You know, you might call that bold. I think the defense is going to have high grades at every position except for maybe inside linebacker and maybe outside linebacker. But that being said, this safety group is looking really good. Tashaun Gipson and A. Jackson are looking to work very well together. The depth is there with Jordan Lucas and Deon Bush, and even someone like DeAndre Houston Carson. If enough players go down, he's someone who has had experience throughout his time in the league. And I'm not confident with him stepping in, but that being said, as like a third stringer, I guess I'm fine with it. So I'm going to give him an A-. You know, I expect them to make a lot of plays here in 2020. I think it's going to be explosive. It's going to be fun to watch. And Chuck Pagano, his second year as defensive coordinator, I think he only gets better with the players. Obviously, you know, there was a little bit of a drop-off there as far as turnovers go, but I think that number is going to jump here in 2020, and a lot of it is going to attribute to the safeties. So I'm going to give the safeties an A- grade. Parth, what do you think you would grade the safeties here?
Yeah, I'm going to give it an A- as well. I think there's a lot of depth, you know, that the safety position, which bumps up the grade a little bit. And then when you have a top 5 safety in Eddie Jackson, you know, you're not going to have anything less than a B at best. And I just like the addition of Tashaun Gipson. Like I said, it's an underrated signing. I think a lot of people aren't talking about it right now, but when it comes down to the game time, I think he's going to produce well. You know, he's played with Buster Screen in, I think, Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know, him. So that's just another boost. And this defensive line itself just makes this whole entire defense 10 times better. And I don't think people are talking about it as much, but us Bears fans know that. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, this defense works as a unit. You know, we've mentioned the defensive line a lot in this game, but it's honestly true that if the defensive line can perform, which we expect them to, the secondary will have a ton of opportunities, whether that's Kyle Fuller, whether that's Jaylen Johnson, whether that's Deon Bush, whether that's Tashaun Gipson, or whether that is obviously Eddie Jackson. Yeah, a lot of people are overlooking the Tashaun Gipson move, and before, you know, I close this one off, I want to read through his stats again. Obviously, he was a strong safety for the Texans in 2019. 51 tackles, 3 interceptions, 8 passes defended. If he replicates that in Chicago, we will be perfectly fine. So thank you guys so much for tuning into our safety positional review today. If you want more content from us, go over to our website, beardown.com. You can find columns, articles, and blogs on there. We're getting stuff up every day, trying to make the best content possible for you guys. If you are on Instagram and Twitter, you can find the podcast at Bear Down, and you can also find the links to our social media fan pages down in the description. Those are also some great follows. Parth Shaw, Eddie Jackson looking to have a comeback year, I guess you could say. A lot of people hating on him. I'm excited to see what he can do. Any last words?
Just you know, stay safe, enjoy the weather. You know, it's heating up here in Chicago. I'm pretty sure it's much hotter anywhere if you're anywhere else probably watching this too. So enjoy the weather, stay safe while you're doing it, and just have fun. You know, summer's here basically, and training camp is almost here. So hopefully we can see them in person. Probably not, but whatever we can do. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just excited to see the quarterback competition. That's all I want to hear about. So hopefully the reporters can at least go to the training camp.
Absolutely. You know, Matt Nagy earlier today did announce that the offseason virtual program is going to end a week and a half early. You know, it was voluntary, but Matt Nagy is an incredible coach, and even though it was voluntary, I think they had a pretty good turnout, and I'm really excited to see what this team can do in 2020. It's been a pleasure to be your host today, guys. Thank you for listening in with us. Once again, my name is Chris Maltby. Bears fans, do us a favor, continue to stay safe, and as always, bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.